Jane Taylor is a woman on a mission to change the world, or at least New York City, through kindness. Growing up in Australia, she moved to New York at 18 to pursue a career in acting. Along the way, she discovered that what she was searching for was a place where she could connect with other women in the vastness of the city. Jane started the Camaraderie to create a space for genuine friendship and fascinating, memorable experiences, providing an open space for women that is free of pressures and pretenses among the hustle and bustle of New York City. We're talking to Jane all about her life, her group, Womanhood. Thank you for joining us, Jane.
Thank you. That was such a flattering introduction. Thanks for that.
You are a wonderful individual, so
makes it sound like I got my life together.
We're all like figuring that out at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we kind of start this podcast with some more fun questions. What is your favorite word in the dictionary?
I have an answer for this that's kind of funny. There's a word in the English dictionary that has an actual meaning. I love this word, not for the meaning that it has, but for my experience with the word. The word is footing, right? Which you would say, you can foot the bill, or you can put footing on a ladder. That's not why I like it. The reason why the word footing is hilarious to me is because I recently started learning Spanish. And in the process of learning Spanish, I've been teaching some Spanish people English. And a hilarious discovery is that in Spain, they think the word for jogging is footing. So we were in the park and you're like looking, no, I'm serious. We're in the park and you see someone walking or running, or you see someone jogging, and somebody was like, oh, they're footing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And like, I haven't gotten to the bottom of where that came from or why that happened. But then this friend asked another friend, like, hey, in English, what do you say for that? And he was like, oh, that's footing. I was like, that doesn't exist. So
that's amazing. I'm just going to go footing for a little bit.
I know. In English, it's hilarious. And you should have seen my face when I first heard it. It was amazing.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. Footing.
You didn't expect that one, huh?
No, I didn't. Jane, what is your favorite thing to cook?
This is hard. I love cooking. I love cooking, which I don't really know if you can call it cooking because I don't like following recipes. I like just creating with whatever's in the house.
Great.
Yeah. And most of the time it's edible. One of my favorite things is cooking any Thai soups, like lemongrass, ginger-based, or coconut milk curries. I think.
What?
Yeah, I love them. They taste so good, and they're like warm comfort food, but they're still light. It's not like,
how did you learn how to cook them?
I think I ate a lot of them from takeout places. You know what the key is? It's discovering lemongrass. It's such an interesting ingredient that, when I first heard that like lemongrass is a thing, it's so foreign and most people don't know about it. But if you steep that in a soup and simmer it for a while, the flavor that comes is so intense and so rich, and it like warms your soul. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to cook lemongrass, but that sounds delightful.
It's pretty easy to figure out. And then Thai soups are amazing because you can add things like bamboo shoots and mushrooms, and they're like one of my favorite ingredients ever. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And you always host camaraderie cocktail parties every month. What has been your favorite cocktail from one of the parties?
I love the month it was last year, obviously. Cocktail parties have taken a backseat this year to Zoom game nights. But I love the month that we served Aperol spritzes. I discovered them one summer in Venice. Right around 4 or 5 o'clock, everyone in Venice City goes to a bar, sits outside, and has an Aperol spritz with some potato chips as a way to start their evening. It's the most refreshing, relaxing thing ever.
And you've traveled everywhere. You mentioned Spain, you mentioned Venice already in this conversation. Where is your favorite place you've ever been?
I think I have to say Spain. It's for the food, the culture, the music, the way of life of the people. There's not a lot of, from my experience so far, there's not a lot of competition there, and just the way they view other humans that they encounter. There's not a lot of judgment. It's just like you meet somebody, and if you like each other, you're straight up to like being considered family level. And I think that's beautiful. I also adore Greece and Croatia.
Oh
Going
my
to Greece and
gosh.
Croatia in the summertime is like the pinnacle of existence. It feels like you're just living a dream.
Oh my gosh, I want to make it there so badly.
You have to. I mean, flight prices these days, for better or worse, a little
Yeah.
more than usual. So,
Okay, if you could have any other profession than your own, what would it be?
well, let's see. I spent a lot of time when I was a kid, or maybe even an adolescent, thinking that I wanted to be a florist because I thought that it would be beautiful to wake up every morning and go into my office or shop and just smell flowers.
Oh
And
my gosh. That
given
sounds
every,
amazing.
I know, right? Given everything that's going on in life and the world right now, I think I was onto something. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best professions you could have. Um, it would also be interesting to challenge myself more than I ever really have dared to. And I think it'd be so cool to be like an astrophysicist, or I don't know, marine biologist, of course, is a typical one that people say, but how cool would that be? Because
That
I
would
feel
be
like
so cool.
the things you would study and discover are kind of otherworldly, either in the universe or under the ocean. I don't know. So they always say it's never too late to start. We'll see where life takes
Yeah,
me.
you could do it. And like I think my favorite marine biologists that I knew like on TV were like the girls on H2O. Do
Mhm.
you remember that show? Okay, I know because like transitioning to you're from Australia.
Yeah.
I yes, I like just dreamed about like Melbourne and like where that would take me. Um,
Yeah.
can you talk about what brought you to the US?
Yeah. So I moved here when I was 18, which I planned to be here for 2 years, going to acting school, actually. And then yeah, I got real lucky with visas and things that allowed me to stay afterwards. So I think I'm on my 11th year now, which was never
Amazing.
the plan. No, but yeah, I came for acting school. I was conservatory trained in theater, and then I spent 5 or 6 years auditioning, doing short films, doing theater pieces, things like that. Before I discovered what was my passion of bringing people together and started the camaraderie, and that's kind of taken over my life happily since then.
Amazing. And what's your favorite part about the city?
I think my response is going to start out kind of cliche, the diversity. But it's true. New York City is, given how much I've been fortunate to travel and all the different places I've seen, there is nowhere like New York. Like absolutely nowhere. And I think if you spend more than 2 or 3 years in New York living,
Mm.
after that kind of you encounter a lot of love hate, a lot of challenges. The city is really rough to live in if you speak about realistic logistics of living in the city, things that people don't talk about too much. But no matter how much it challenges you and you long to be in the middle of a forest living in a tree house, as soon as you're in the middle of the forest, you like can't wait to come back to the city. And there's a reason for that. And I think it's the best place on planet Earth for people who are curious like myself. You just get to all day long people watch people living their lives in so many different types of ways. And that's the coolest thing ever. And there's just so much energy. It's like the air vibrates, I don't know, more than anywhere else. And yeah, I think anything is possible in New York, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Again, it sounds super cliche, but it's so true. There's just not a lot of limits. So I love that.
I think that's really true. Like right when I got back home to California, I was like, okay, when am I going back to New York?
Always the same.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if I'm in Greece or Croatia or wherever we've mentioned somewhere like fairy tale. You just want to be back in New York, man. You
Yeah.
get back here and it's like you can breathe again until it starts to feel like you can't breathe here, and then you take a break and whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But life has been a little different right now. Can you talk about what you've been up to in quarantine?
Yeah, it's been a little different for sure. I think what's kept me most busy, the camaraderie, which we'll talk more about in a moment, I'm sure. We're an events-based social group for women in the city, and we. It's funny now, kind of looking back in hindsight. It's like, oh well, everyone's stuck at home. It's the perfect way to kind of figure out ways to keep women connected to each other and keep the social part of their mind and hearts beating for the sake of mental health. But everything with the quarantine situation and the current landscape of circumstances in the world and New York happened so fast. I really had to figure it out on a whim. And we did manage to transfer all of our events online pretty quickly. So over the past, I guess it's been like 6 months now. Over the past 6 months of staying at home a little bit more, we have done about more than 40 virtual events. So
amazing.
That's kept me very busy, but it's been really cool to see how that can work.
Can you talk a bit more about what is the Camaraderie for all our listeners?
Sure. So the Camaraderie is a social group that I run. We are just a couple of days past our 4-year anniversary, which
Woo!
is very exciting. Thank you. I actually kind of missed it. I realized the next day, you know how that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see that it's survived for this long, a lot of time on pure passion of mine. But it started out very much as an experiment. I was like trying to figure out if I was the only crazy one in New York who was super lonely. I feel like I can make friends with a tree. Like I really don't have problems connecting with people usually. But about the 5 or 6 year mark of living in New York City, I had made 2 best friends, and in the same week they both moved back to the countries they had come from because of their visas.
Wow.
I have no family in the States. And, you know, after being out of my home country for 6 years, my friendships there had kind of started to weaken a little bit too, as they naturally do. And one day I just woke up, my 2 friends were gone, and I felt so crushingly alone. And I felt like I had to start again. And that's wild, like to have to build your support system from the ground up after 6 years of living in a city. And I was like, this cannot be normal. And I kind of tried to breach the subject a little bit when I would have coffee with somebody, a friend, or, you know, any social situation I found myself in. I'd be like, are you like kind of lonely? Like, I don't know. I don't really have any good girlfriends that I could just call up and cry to if I needed to. And I found that me sort of opening up that little Pandora's box led a lot of people that I was speaking to be like, yeah, I'm borderline depressed a lot of the time. And that's not fair. That's not fair to have a city that's so transient and so difficult to live in sometimes, but there's no real way to make authentic friendships. Most people are expected to be friends with their coworkers, which I think is kind of crazy. Lucky if you have great coworkers, but you know,
Yeah.
having a wider range of possibility is important too. So I started the Camaraderie with a focus on kindness, authenticity, laid backness. It's a really cool group place in the city where we don't take ourselves so seriously like most other things kind of encourage you to around New York. And it's also not industry based. You don't have to be like in architecture to be part of it, or in tech. It's just open for every kind of woman, and it's formed the most beautiful community. I'm really honored to be part of it, let alone running it.
Yes, and I have to tell everyone listening, I am also part of the Camaraderie, and I had to reach out to Jane because it is the greatest community in New York. And I think that's so true. Like there are so many people all around you all the time, and yet you can still be very lonely when you live in the city. And like, I think especially right now, like we need this community, and we need like a social thing that's not about like competition or like kind of like being friends with your coworkers. I had like trouble with like all of my friends. We were in direct competition with each other because I knew everyone from graduate school who was a director, and like we're all competing for the same jobs, and it's hard. So it's nice to be with so many people in different industries and in a group that's not about industry or networking, which is so unusual for New York.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy to me. I mean, this idea kind of came during the realization of the need for this. It's not even an idea, it's just a necessity, what this group offers. And it became increasingly obvious to me when I was acting. And any event I went to, most of them were not supposed to be networking events. Like I was there for a totally different purpose. And the first question out of people's mouths in New York is, always, what do you do? And I would be like, oh, I'm an actor, which is hard to call yourself an actor when you're not, you know, in blockbusters and getting paid. I was going to say getting paid big bucks. When you're not getting paid at all, it's hard to call yourself an actor, but you know, that's what I was trying to do. So I would say that and they would be like, oh, what have you been in that I've seen? And I would be like, oh, probably nothing. I doubt you've seen what I've done. And I would go home every time feeling terrible, feeling like I had no value because I didn't have anything solid that I could gloat about. And it dawned on me, like, why does it seem that my only value is what I do? So I actively encourage people not to talk about that unless the conversation naturally leads there, but not as the first thing.
Yeah. I think that's awesome because you connect on so many different levels then, and with women that you would never meet otherwise, which is great.
Yeah. Thanks.
And can you talk about some of the hurdles you've faced starting the group?
Yeah. Wow.
How did you overcome them? If you want.
I don't even know which hurdle to reference. I don't know how I found myself running an events-based business in Manhattan. It's insane. Like the amount of, oh gosh, the most simple example is I started the group by running monthly cocktail parties, and they had no premise other than come as you are, come ready to just open yourself up to others and explore humanity and you know, spread kindness and positivity, and that's it. But you know, one of the first really amazing things that happened was that right from the get-go, we got a really good wine sponsor for our cocktail parties, and a really good venue sponsor that would host us. So, you know, bootstrapping this business and having no funds coming into it from the beginning, it helped us to kind of put down some roots and be able to grow from there. But one of the stipulations of the wine company was that for the pictures and things, which of course, the wine has to be drunk out of actual wine glasses. So I invested in like 50 wine glasses and I had to cart them around. And that was just one piece of 50 pieces that I needed to cart around for every cocktail party. Logistics of running events in New York, transportation, just the expense of everything. It's insane. And then, you know, we're living in a city which during normal times has so many options of things that you can do. So convincing people to come to the events and being like, you know, you're going to get a lot of value out of this. I promise it can open up a whole new world for you. You just have to try and, you know, come. It's really hard. It's really hard spreading the word amongst all the different messages that are going around the city and all the different options for things to do. But I think we have come as far as we have through purely my passion and perseverance and, you know, just not stopping. And I'm very excited about where we are going to continue to go with this.
Yay! It's awesome. What has been your favorite event that you've organized? There have been so many.
It's crazy. I think we've done more than 400 at this point.
Wow.
Really. We're averaging 6 to 7 a month, have been for the past 3 years. So that's cool. I've gotten to do cool things. Yeah. The crowd favorite by so far is that we did goat yoga one day. We took 3 carpools of girls upstate. We partnered with a farm. We had a yoga instructor come, and it's like a trendy thing to do goat yoga where you're doing a yoga class and there's goats walking around.
What?
And have you not heard about this?
No. Oh my God. Where was I?
It was upstate in a beautiful farm, but you can do it in many places if you form partnerships with people who run it. And the idea is that because goats, I guess, are mountain animals, they love to climb onto things. So when you're doing downward dogs or whatnot, they're like jumping on your back. And not jumping, but getting on your back.
Oh my God.
It will forever be probably the favorite event of the camaraderie. No matter if we do skydiving, people are still going to remember goat yoga.
Wow.
It was actually so funny because we all expected the goats to be baby goats and they weren't necessarily. So you're riding the line between hilarious and painful because these are like full-grown goats getting on your back some of the time.
Oh my gosh.
It was so funny. You'd have to just kind of Google it and figure it. There's really not much to say about it more than what I just said. That's literally what it is. But it was such a fun day. And I love the possibilities that camaraderie events give us to plan and host events that are out of the ordinary. You know, we're not just
Yeah.
happy hours. We're doing like a lot of cool things. So that's the crowd favorite. And my own favorite, I don't know. I love every single event. It's like trying to choose between your children. I don't know.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, like, just for instance, everyone who's listening, they just went hiking up in the mountains and like went apple picking. So lovely. They're having like Halloween pumpkin carving, as well as like they have book clubs. Those are my personal favorites. Or like puzzle night, like trivia nights. They're so fun.
Everything. It runs the gamut. We actually have an event later this month that is, we're going to go to Woodstock, the town of Woodstock, and check out the flea market there and go to an orchard and do some apple cider tastings. And in the evening, we're going to a drive-through haunted house, which is a coronavirus times creation because they can't do walk-through haunted houses, I guess. I'm really nervous. Somebody's going to be driving the cars, and I really hope that we pump the brakes instead of the accelerator. I'm pretty jumpy as it is, and I'm going to be one of the drivers. So check out the website later on to see how that goes.
That's so fun. Oh my gosh.
It is cool. We really get to explore all corners of New York for events. So yeah, we're a social group like none other, I would say.
And something that we always ask on this podcast, Jane, is what is your definition of womanhood?
I love this question. I love this question because it allows me to be completely honest, which means that I will preface this by saying, I saw that question in your notes as a possible talking point, and I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. Like, I'm going to have to Google what other people say is their definition of womanhood, because like, I don't know. I still feel like I'm 17. I'm now almost 30, so I probably should know. But I love the beauty of this because it allows the person who's answering this question to kind of get really honest with themselves about their personal experience of life as a woman. And I realized upon thinking about it, for me, womanhood is having the ability to slowly grow into a period of your life where you learn that all of the things you were conditioned to believe or told when you were young, all of your childhood experiences don't have to define you. And I am definitely somebody who has spent my 20s still for some reason thinking that I had to fit into a cookie cutter of what other people expected me to be or achieve or believe in. And I think as you get older, you start to care less slowly. For anyone who's younger listening, you really start to care less. And I am so excited to turn 30 and just get there because like, I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be a new phase of just accepting that this is who I am. And
When's your birthday?
It's next April. It's like so far away.
I was like, oh my gosh, so soon.
No, it's not that soon. I just feel it coming. I don't know. I think I've increasingly had time lately to realize the beauty and the magnificence of women. And it's something that like you thought was kind of like a taboo topic, or you had to kind of be a little bit rebellious to believe in the power of women because of society's messages or messaging so much of the time. And I'm just realizing we are magic. Like we are pure magic. The capacity that we have for creation of beautiful things and the way that women empathetically naturally see humanity and existence, if you really tune into that, the positivity and just the endless possibilities and the creation that can come from women in general is so inspiring and so exciting. So yeah.
I love that, the endless possibilities that we can all create. And what you're doing with the camaraderie, that's womanhood, and that's like creating like a sisterhood within a city.
It's really womanhood and the creation of the camaraderie has been very challenging for me to drop my fears. It's like for so much of your young life, you want to believe that you're capable of anything and, you can do really powerful things, but you're not sure. And finally, as you arrive into womanhood, I feel like it's just like, okay, I can do whatever I want. I just need to decide what that is and go for it. No one's going to tell me otherwise. So it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. And if you could, if someone asked you on the street for a piece of advice, like a woman stopped you and you had just like a minute to share something with them, what would you say?
Oh man, I feel like I need to ask people for this.
Yeah, can everyone please tell me?
Yeah. I think I would say something along the lines of just constantly, quietly check yourself and make sure that you are, for your own benefit, always behaving from a place of love and open-mindedness, and that you're not behaving and going through life with a defense or like a fear. I feel like I spent so many years just kind of limiting myself and hesitating in different ways because of deep-rooted fears. There's nothing to be afraid of, you know. I think taking time to realize that is really important. And then for the benefit of others, make sure that you don't allow yourself to just fall into the trap of behaving from judgment a lot of the time. I feel like our society puts so many stipulations on everybody and everything that it really gives us like a structure of how we should be, and then we can judge other people based on that, and that's so ridiculous and so unfounded. So making sure that you're always acting with empathy and compassion and slowing down to get curious about other people and realizing that we're all so naturally different and nothing's ever going to change that, and that's in fact the beautiful part. And also realizing that, you know, everyone's on some level struggling or currently being challenged with something. I don't think challenges ever go away. So don't be hard on others when you don't have the right to be and you shouldn't be.
That's such a good reminder right now, especially like we all have different notions of what this time means to us and how we're dealing with it. Like we talked about a little earlier.
Yeah. It's important to remember that what works for you isn't going to work for everybody else. And it's another cliche, I guess. You hear people say, we're all just doing the best that we can, but like, meditate on that for a little while. We are all just doing the best we can. And sometimes we fail. Sometimes we don't have direction. Sometimes, you know, we do things quote unquote wrong, but we're all really trying, and you can't impose your entire set of beliefs on everybody else. You really have to allow people space to be who they are and behave in a way that works for them. So.
Well, that's wonderful, Jane. Thank you. And how can listeners find out more about the camaraderie and how to come to an event or join?
We have a really cute website. Everyone says it's cute. It's not supposed to be cute. It's supposed to be friendly and easy to navigate, but apparently it's cute. It's the CamaraderieNYC.com. Figure out how to spell it. It's taken me like years to figure out all the spelling, but I'm sure you can find it easily enough. And then we have our Instagram page, which we often post our upcoming events on there. So
amazing.
Yeah, on the regular channels.
Awesome. Well, everyone go check out the camaraderie if you live in New York, or think about how you can apply some of these amazing insights that Jane has given us to your lives. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on. Yeah.
No, I'm so happy to be talking to you. Alice is amazing. I told her earlier she's the perfect person to be hosting a podcast like this. And it's such important work to be able to share the stories of women from all over the world and all the different places that we come from and things that we're doing. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Jane.